Oh, hey everybody. How's it going? Kirby Jumbo here. Good morning to you if it's a morning. If it's not the morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time it is for you out there in YouTube land. Again, I'm Kirby Jumbo, and I am doing videos in this new little sideline channel I have. A little sideline channel I call My Favorite Things. I have another YouTube channel where I discuss a lot of things pertaining to my major focus of my career and a lot of things I do in my life. As a French immersion teacher, as a French language poet, as a Louisiana French teacher, a lot of videos associated with that, Louisiana and French, and a variety of things associated with those topics, education, poetry, and the like. This channel, different. I'm just highlighting some things I enjoy, my favorite things. We already did a couple of videos on my favorite rock group and my favorite TV movie franchise. Please excuse, I will make errors. I will say things that might not be correct. I usually try to correct those in the comments because I get excited about these things, and sometimes my words come out before my mind is engaged. That's why sometimes I need a good cup of coffee. So I've got a little sip of coffee. I'm ready to go talking about my next favorite thing. And this one is my favorite hobby, or at least my favorite summer hobby. Or my favorite free time hobby when I have some time off. As a school teacher, I have the summers more flexible. And there's a hobby that I enjoy doing, I've been doing for years, and that's genealogy. I love doing genealogy, yes. I love finding my roots. I began doing this many years ago. I really began an interest in genealogy back when I was studying to be a teacher, and I was working with a program to prepare high school students for the college and university experience in summers. And one of the classes we taught in that program was cultural heritage. And I remember teaching the students about cultural heritage. I remember having them research their family tree. And regardless of their ancestry, African American, Native American, Vietnamese, Cajun, Creole, anything, regardless of their heritage, I found that researching their heritage gave them such a sense of identity, a sense of pride, and a sense of not being alone. For me, genealogy is a way to connect. When we realize how many people are responsible for us being here today, wow, it gives our life such an importance to me. So many people responsible. And then we also realize how related we are, I think they said that it's impossible for any two persons on earth to be further related than 50th cousins. So we're all related. We're all part of the same family, the same human family. And so we'll talk a little bit about genealogy and how I got into it, how you can get started into doing genealogy. Usually the first thing you want to do is start talking to your oldest relatives that you have. Ask them about their life. Ask them about what happened, where were they from, their family, what was life like back then. Get some names down, jot down some names. You can record them. I remember recording my grandparents and hearing things. I recorded my grandparents. My grandparents' first language was French, Louisiana French or Cajun French. Their first language was French, and as was my parents' first language as well, and a language that we heard in our household growing up as well. And so so sometimes I interview them in French and find out, because I get a little bit more detail in French than I did in English. It's a little easier. But if you don't speak, if it's a different language, you try your best. But you do your very best to interview and to get information from them. Jot some things down. And then there are many resources. Back in the day when I started, we didn't have all the internet resources. I had to use books. Like I have a lot of descendants who are of Acadian ancestry. So I did this book here, Acadian Descendants. I used the records. They were record books. There was records of South Lafourche, or South Louisiana records, I should say, for Lafourche and Terrebonne Parish, and those I had some ancestors, of course, from there. And so I would look up dates. And now, when you're doing it, sometimes you're going to see the dates don't always agree. Sometimes in the past, I noticed, like for example, they'll have the dates. Sometimes the birth dates, and for example, certain dates like. If it was the church records, they might have, especially like in this very, very Catholic area that I grew up in, you might wait until the priest comes around and then before you record certain information. So sometimes the dates were off. So sometimes the baptismal date got mixed up with the birth date. Sometimes the person had the same name, their dates got mixed up as well. But eventually you're going to start working on a pedigree chart. and or some or called an ancestor chart. Like for example, here's my first ancestor chart here, and it's it's really great source of information. Can you see it? Okay. It's got a lot of great information about my family, where my ancestors come from, and all that. And it can, and the first, your basic ancestor chart will start with will go probably as far as this. This is your great great grandparents, of whom you have 16. Okay, 16. And some of the interesting things I found about that, for example, like my last name is Jambon, but I have only one great great grandparent over the Jambon, but I have three great great grandparents whose last name was Cherami. So as a result, I'm a little bit more Cherami than actually Jambon, even though that's my last name. And so you research, you find information about that. You can find different books that'll help you. They'll have ancestry charts in them. Like there's one called Tracing Your Ancestry Logbook. They'll have all kind of information in there. You'll have pedigree charts in there that you can start working on. That white doesn't always show up. And then you also want to get stories. You want to get other information about them. You want to find out about them. There are books about stories that they used to tell in the past. You want to find out where they lived. There's fascinating information. Eventually, and then of course today with the websites, wow, there's tons of websites. Ancestry.com, rootsweb.com, the Mormon Church is a great website for research. A lot of different resources to research all your information. Eventually, you can print out whole documents. Like here's one of my ancestors. My mother was a Gisclair, and so here's one of the ancestors of the Gisclair. What's interesting about the Gisclair family is that they had a Gisclair's. Gisclair family was kind of interesting. Like we pronounce it in French, we pronounce it Gisclair. Gisclair rather than Gisclair, the name Gisclair. And then, and actually, in South Lafourche Parish, where my mother's from, the J sound, it was pronounced like an H. So they were pronounced like Isclar, Hisclar. And what's interesting, I was researching my family one time, and I found these like census records. So I found these census records, and I was looking through it, and all of a sudden, here's the Gisclairs listed here. Here's this good here, but in this middle area, in this middle date, I should say, they just seemed to be disappeared. The Gisclairs weren't there. They were there, and they're not there, and then they show up again in another census. And I'm so, what happened there? Well, what I realized, I researched a little further, is that they were there. Their just name was misspelled. Instead of written Gisclair, it was written Isclard. Reason why? That was the way it was pronounced, Isclar. Rather than just Gisclair, it was pronounced Isclar. And so they had written it the way they pronounced it. So a lot of times the names will get changed, so you're going to have to play around with sometimes the names. I have an ancestor, for example, that I always, when I got his name, I thought it was a Frenchman. His name was Peric Veg. But when I researched him, I realized he was from the Canary Islands originally. So he was Spanish, and his name was actually Pedro Vegas. And when he got to Louisiana, his name became a little more French. It became Pierre Veg. And then got the Spanish. Then he got some more Spanish records as the Spanish took over the government. And his name got changed from Pierre Veg to Perico Vegas. And then when I started researching him, he was pronounced Pierre Veg. It was back to being French. And then I noticed when he died, on his death records, it's written Peter Vegas in English. So his name changed from Spanish, French, and back to, and then ending up in English. So you have all kind of things that you research when you do that kind of information. You can research documents, like for example, I have this is my great grandfather's draft card. Now, the interesting thing about that, my great grandfather couldn't speak English and could not read and write. And I'm looking at the handwriting. It's obvious that it's a woman's handwriting, so he actually obviously didn't research that. And his name was Alcide Hippolyte Nautilus Jambon was his name. He had two middle names, and so see where he lived. His draft board. He had to fill out a draft registration card. You find all kind of information like that. Now, eventually, you start doing these websites, and you're going to go further and further back. You can create like even bigger pedigree charts. You can get a bigger, like a 15-generation pedigree chart, which I've filled up a lot of them in that sense too. Or you can simply have some fun cutting and pasting. You use like one of those websites. You print out the information, and then you kind of like print it all together. You make these kind of long kind of sheets of information. I love figuring out, when I research that kind of information, because every now and then you'll get like certain lines are much more documented. Like my Acadian ancestors, Uh, a majority, about 80% of my ancestry, over 80% of my ancestry is of French origin. And about half of that, almost half of that, are of Acadian origin. And so the Acadians kind of came in a group. So they have a lot of documented information on the Acadians. But on other ones, other French origins, it's hard to find if they came individually. You have to locate information. But eventually you'll find a line. You'll find a line like, if you find like a royal line, like in everybody's, no, it's not a big bragging thing. Pretty much everybody will find a royal line. But as my wife's grandfather used to say, you probably find a couple of horse thieves too among there. Yeah, yeah. I find like pirates as well. Again, my ancestry. But so you'll find all kind of things in your family. But it's part of the adventure of it. But when you do find a royal line, sometimes you get information, and you go trace these information back, like this one goes back to like 1422, the year 1422. So I have an ancestor right here. Look at this. Dieubud Seigneur de Villiers, Marne, Hier, born in Paris, 1410, Ile-de-France, married in 1422 in Paris, and then died in 1471 in Paris. So you can find information about ancestors like that as well. So it is a wonderful hobby. I tend to do it, as I said, when I have free time, like during the summers. I don't always free. I do a lot of other work in the summer, but I do have more flexible time. I might be doing a little bit now as I'm recovering from surgery. One of the reasons I'm doing this little channel, it gives me something to do while I'm recovering. So take my mind off of other things as well. So again, I appreciate you tuning in. Please pardon any kind of errors you might find or the quality. I'm not a professional videographer. I'm just doing this because it's something I enjoy, and hopefully you can enjoy it. So please, if you have some comments about about genealogy or about your genealogy, or you want to talk about genealogy, please make the comments. Now, I do hold all comments or review right away, but if it's a good comment, I'll go back and I'll add it to the video so you can see. Okay, so ça c'est bon. That's wonderful. It's great talking to you about my roots, about our roots, about genealogy, one of my favorite things. Okay, have a great day, and we're gonna see y'all later. And as I say in French a lot, soignez-vous autres, soignez les autres. Take care of yourselves and take care of each other. Bye.